The wine hit Evan Sinclair's face like a cold slap of disrespect. Red liquid dripped from her chin, staining the white silk blouse she'd carefully pressed that morning. The entire restaurant fell silent. Forks paused mid-air. Conversations died. Even the soft classical music seemed to fade into nothingness. Siha Kwan stood over her, chest heaving, eyes blazing with territorial fury. The woman's perfectly manicured hand still gripped the empty wine glass, her designer dress shimmering under the chandelier lights. Behind her sat Baek Junhyuk, the man whose presence commanded attention even in stillness. His dark eyes watched the scene unfold with unsettling calm. Evan didn't cry, didn't shrink, didn't apologize. Instead, she picked up her own glass of wine, stood slowly, and poured the entire contents over Siha's head. The liquid cascaded down the woman's designer waves, ruining what had probably been an hour of professional styling. Gasps erupted throughout the restaurant. Someone's mother clutched her pearls. "You!" Siha's hand flew through the air, connecting with Evan's cheek in a sharp crack that echoed off the marble floors. The sting burned. Evan's head snapped to the side. She tasted copper. But before anyone could react, before security could move, before Junhyuk could rise from his seat, Evan's palm met Sia's face with equal force. The slap resonated like a gunshot. "Control your wild animal," Evan said. Her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. She turned her gaze to Junhyuk, meeting those dark, calculating eyes without flinching. "Or I will." Security guards in black suits rushed forward, but Junhyuk raised one hand. Just one hand. They froze mid-stride like puppets whose strings had been cut. The power dynamics in the room shifted palpably. Every patron in the restaurant knew who Baek Junhyuk was. Heir to the Baek Empire. Untouchable. Uncompromising. And here was this unknown woman, challenging him in front of everyone. Evan grabbed her purse, her movements deliberate and unhurried. She walked past the frozen security guards, past the gawking diners, past the manager who looked ready to faint. Her heels clicked against the floor with measured confidence. She didn't look back. Behind her, Siha's voice broke into sobs. "You're just going to let her leave? She assaulted me. She humiliated us both." Junhyuk said nothing. His eyes remained fixed on the door Evan had just exited, a slight curve touching the corner of his mouth. "If her courage already has you hooked, I promise you what happens next will blow your mind. Hit that like button if you think Evan's reaction was 100% valid. And stay with me because this story is just getting started." Hours earlier, Evan's day had been ordinary. She'd woken in her modest apartment, made coffee in her second-hand machine, and dressed for work in clothes she'd bought on sale. She worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm. Nothing glamorous, but she was good at it. Her boss respected her. Her colleagues liked her. She earned her own money and answered to no one. At lunch, she decided to treat herself. The restaurant was expensive, saved for expensive, but she'd wanted one afternoon of luxury. She'd wanted to sit somewhere beautiful and pretend, just for an hour, that she belonged in a world of crystal glasses and pristine white tablecloths. She hadn't expected to end up wearing wine. Meanwhile, in a penthouse across the city, Baek Junhyuk's morning had been anything but ordinary. His mother, Madame Baek Siren, had summoned him for breakfast. This meant lectures disguised as maternal concern, criticisms wrapped in silk, and endless reminders of family duty. "The Lee family dinner is next week," his mother had said, sipping tea from porcelain so fine it was nearly transparent. "Siha will accompany you, of course." "Of course," Junhyuk had replied, his tone empty. "You need to be more attentive to her. People are starting to talk. Let them talk." "Junhyuk." His mother's voice had sharpened. "Your father expects. Father expects profit margins and shareholder satisfaction. Everything else is your concern, not his." The conversation had ended there, as it always did, with tension and unspoken resentments. Junhyuk had gone to the office, moved money across continents, made decisions that affected thousands of lives, and felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. Until Siha had insisted on lunch. Until that woman with fire in her eyes had refused to bow. In the car, Siha wouldn't stop crying. Her makeup ran in black streaks down her face. "She humiliated me. She hit me in front of everyone. You poured wine on her first," Jun-hyuk said, staring out the window. Because she was looking at you. She was eating lunch. You're defending her? Siha's voice climbed to a shriek. That nobody? That peasant who dared to strike me. You caused it, Jun-hyuk said simply. You started it. She finished it. This is what happens when you mistake cruelty for power. Siha grabbed his arm. I won't let this go. I'll make her regret. You'll do nothing, Jun-hyuk interrupted, his tone cold enough to freeze blood. Do you understand me? Nothing. But Siha's eyes held promises of revenge. She nodded, but Jun-hyuk knew she was lying. That evening, alone in his office, Jun-hyuk replayed the scene. The way that woman had stood after being slapped. The way her hand had moved with precision. No hesitation, no fear. She challenged him directly, in front of his date, in front of dozens of witnesses. She'd called Siha a wild animal. She'd threatened to control herself. And she'd walked away. No one walked away from Baek Jun-hyuk. No one challenged him and simply left. People groveled. They apologized. They sent expensive gifts and begged for forgiveness. But this woman had just walked away. He found himself smiling. Actually smiling. When was the last time someone had genuinely surprised him? He pulled out his phone and made a call. Find out everything about the woman from the restaurant. The one in the white blouse. I want her name, address, occupation, everything. Yes, sir. And do it quietly. 3 days later, Avon was walking home from work when she saw him. Baek Jun-hyuk stood outside her office building, hands in his pockets, looking ridiculously out of place among the evening commuters. His suit looked very costly. She considered turning around. But that would be cowardice, and Avon Sinclair was many things, but coward wasn't one of them. She walked straight up to him. You again? Today you're not with your uncouth girlfriend. He actually laughed. The sound was unexpected, genuine. She's not my girlfriend. She seems to think she is. Many people think about many things. That doesn't make them true. What do you want? Avon crossed her arms. To apologize, Jun-hyuk said. What Siha did was inexcusable. You were minding your own business, and she attacked you without provocation. And you're apologizing for her? I'm apologizing for bringing her into that restaurant. For not controlling the situation before it escalated. Avon studied him. His eyes were steady, no manipulation she could detect. Apology noted. We're done here. Actually, Jun-hyuk said, I was hoping to make amends properly. Let me take you to dinner. A real one this time, without wine being used as a weapon. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's me wanting to spend time with someone who isn't afraid of me. Something in the way he said it made Avon pause. There was loneliness in those words, hidden beneath layers of confidence and control. One dinner, she said. But I'm ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. They set a date for the following week. Avon told herself it was just curiosity. Just one meal with a man who controlled half the city's economy. What harm could it do? She found out 2 days later. She was leaving work late, taking a shortcut through a parking garage, when 3 men in black surrounded her. Their intentions were clear in the way they moved, the way they blocked exits. One of them held something that glinted in the fluorescent light. Siha Kwan sends her regards, one said. Avon's heart hammered, but her mind stayed clear. She'd grown up in a neighborhood where you learn to fight or learn to die. She'd chosen fighting. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that she'd spent 6 years training in Taekwondo. Earning her black belt before college tuition forced her to quit. When the first man lunged, she sidestepped, grabbed his extended arm, and used his momentum to slam him into the concrete pillar. The second man caught her shoulder, but she drove her elbow into his ribs, and heard the satisfying crack of bone. The third man hesitated, and that hesitation gave her the opening she needed to run. She sprinted to her car, hands shaking as she jammed the key into the ignition. Behind her the men were shouting, but she was already peeling out of the garage, tires squealing. She drove straight to the police station, filed a report, gave descriptions. But when the officers asked if she knew who might want to hurt her, she hesitated. Did she have proof? Would they even believe her? Siha Kwan moved in circles so high that Avon's accusations might seem like delusions. She said she didn't know. The dinner happened anyway. Jun-hyuk had chosen a private room in one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. When Avin arrived, still slightly bruised from the parking garage incident, his eyes darkened immediately. "What happened to you?" She told him. "Everything." The three men, the attack, Siha's message. She watched his face transform from concern to cold fury. "She did this," he said, not a question but a statement. "She dared to." He stopped himself, jaw clenched. "I will handle this. You have my word." "I don't need you to handle anything," Avin said. "I handled it myself." Clearly, there was admiration in his voice. "You're extraordinary, you know that? Most people would have crumbled. Most people haven't lived my life." They talked for hours. Avin learned that Siha wasn't his girlfriend, but an arrangement his mother had orchestrated with another powerful family. A political match, loveless and convenient. Jun-hyuk had gone along with it because fighting his mother on every front exhausted him, and this particular battle had seemed insignificant. "Until now," he said. "Why until now?" "Because now she's hurting people I care about. You don't even know me." "I'd like to." Avin wanted to resist the warmth spreading in her chest. This was insane. This man was dangerous, powerful, from a world so different from hers they might as well be different species. But there was something in the way he looked at her, like she was a puzzle he genuinely wanted to solve, not a conquest he needed to claim. "Tell me about your life," Jun-hyuk said. "Everything." So she did. She told him about growing up without much money but with a mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them housed and fed. About putting herself through college, about the pride of earning her first real paycheck, about building a life with her own hands. "And you?" she asked. "What's it like being born with everything?" "Lonely," he said simply. "Every person wants something. Every smile hides a calculation. I've been a means to an end my entire life." "Poor little rich boy," Avin said, but her tone was gentle teasing. He smiled. "You're the first person in years who's talked to me like I'm just human. Aren't you? Sometimes I forget." The next day, Jun-hyuk confronted Siha in his office. She arrived expecting reconciliation, wearing an expensive dress and a smile that promised forgiveness. "We need to talk about your behavior," Jun-hyuk said, not offering her a seat. "My behavior? That woman. Avin Sinclair. Her name is Avin Sinclair, and you sent men to attack her in a parking garage." Siha's smile faltered. "I don't know what you're. Don't lie to me." His voice could have cut glass. "I have security footage. I have witness statements. I have everything I need to destroy you. The only reason I haven't is because your family doesn't deserve to suffer for your jealousy." "Jealousy? She's nobody. She's beneath us both. She's worth 10 of you," Jun-hyuk said quietly. "And if you ever go near her again, I will ensure that every door in this city closes in your face. Your family will lose every contract with Beck Industries. Your social standing will evaporate. Do you understand me?" Sia's face had gone pale. "You're choosing her over me? Over our family's arrangement?" "There was never an US, Siha. There was only my mother's ambition and your family's greed. I'm done pretending." After she left, Jun-hyuk called his mother. That conversation was shorter, colder, and ended with Madame Beck Siren slamming down the phone so hard he heard it crack. But Siha wasn't done. That evening her tears found a sympathetic ear in Madame Beck Siren. Together they plotted. For the next 3 weeks, Beck Jun-hyuk became an unavoidable constant in Avin Sinclair's life. Some days, he appeared outside her office with coffee she hadn't asked for. Other days, lunch she insisted she didn't need. And on the days he brought nothing at all, he brought conversation, quiet, unforced, patient. She challenged him every single time. "Don't you have a company to run?" "I'm delegating." "Don't you have better things to do?" "Can't think of any." "Your mother must be furious." "My mother is always furious. It's her natural state." Avin told herself she was immune, that she'd seen men like him before. Powerful, charming, temporary. She reminded herself that his world was not hers, that stepping into it meant surrendering control. But Jun-hyuk never pressured her, never rushed her, never demanded anything she wasn't ready to give. He listened. He remembered. He showed up. And slowly, against her will, against her better judgment, The walls she'd built so carefully began to crack. The invitation to family dinner arrived formally, on expensive cardstock. Evan held it like it might explode. "You don't have to go," Jun-hyuk said. "I can tell them you're busy. And let them think I'm afraid? No chance." The Beck family estate was obscenely large. Evan counted 6 separate buildings on the grounds as the car pulled up. Inside, the dining room could have housed her entire apartment building. Crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums, and a table long enough to seat 30 people comfortably. Madame Beck-Siren sat at one end, ice personified. Chairman Beck's seat remained empty. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins filled the spaces between, all watching Evan like she was a bug they were deciding whether to crush or ignore. Jun-hyuk's sister, Min-seo, sat quietly near the middle. She was younger than Jun-hyuk, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "So," one uncle said, "you're the girl causing all this fuss." "I wasn't aware I was causing any fuss," Evan replied evenly. "Dating Jun-hyuk? That's not a fuss." "Uncle." Jun-hyuk's voice held a warning. "I'm just curious about her background. Where did you say your family is from, dear?" "I didn't," Evan said, meeting his eyes. "But since you're asking, my mother is from Ghana. She raised me alone after my father died. She worked 3 jobs to send me to school. I graduated with honors and now work in tech. Anything else you'd like to know?" Silence fell. The uncle's smile became strained. "No education in etiquette, I see." "I have plenty of education in etiquette," Evan said smoothly. "I'm just choosing not to waste it on questions designed to insult me." Someone coughed to hide a laugh. Evan caught Min-seo's eye. The younger woman's lips twitched, and she gave Evan a small, approving nod. An ally, Evan realized. Unexpected but welcome. Madame Beck-Siren spoke for the first time. "Jun-hyuk, I need to speak with you. Privately." They excused themselves. In the hallway, his mother's voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "This is unacceptable. Her mother was a seamstress. Her family has nothing. Father will be the judge of that," Jun-hyuk said calmly. "Your father will be disappointed. Let him be." He returned to the dining room, walked directly to Evan, and kissed her in front of everyone. Not a small kiss, not a polite peck, but a claiming, possessive kiss that announced his intentions louder than words ever could. "We're leaving," he said. As they walked out, Evan caught Min-seo's expression. The younger woman was grinning openly now, giving them a small wave. Outside, Jun-hyuk helped Evan into the car and sat beside her. "You were magnificent," he said. "The way you handled them, refused to be intimidated, stood your ground. I've never seen anyone face down my family like that." "They were trying to make me feel small," Evan said. "I've been dealing with people like that my whole life. They failed spectacularly." He took her hand. "I don't care what my family thinks. I don't care about their approval or their traditions or their expectations. I care about you." Evan's heart was hammered. "Jun-hyuk, I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I also know that I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me want to be better. You make me want to fight for something that actually matters." She kissed him then, and in that moment the rest of the world ceased to exist. But Madame Beck-Siren and Siha Kwan weren't finished. In a private meeting room downtown, they plotted their next move. Siha cried prettily about losing Jun-hyuk, about being humiliated, about that woman destroying everything. Madame Siren listened with narrowed eyes. "Something must be done," the older woman said. "This cannot stand." They arranged another attack. More sophisticated this time, more careful. But Evan had learned to watch her surroundings. She noticed the car following her. Noticed the men lingering too long outside her building. She changed her routines, varied her routes, and stayed in public spaces. When the attack came, it was in broad daylight outside a coffee shop. 2 men approached her aggressively, but Evan screamed immediately, loudly, drawing attention from everyone nearby. Someone called the police. The men fled. Evan knew who was behind it. She confronted Jun-hyuk that evening. "I can't keep living like this," she said, "constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the next attack will come. They won't stop." "Then I'll stop them," Jun-hyuk said. His voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. Something dark and dangerous. Permanently. The second family dinner was different. Chairman Beck was present this time, a man whose very presence seemed to command gravity. He was older than Madame Siren, with silver hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen every human failing and learned to expect more. When he saw Avon, something flickered in his expression. Recognition. "What's your mother's name?" he asked. "Sinclair. Maya Sinclair before she married." "And her maiden name?" "Akofo." "Why?" Chairman Beck sat back slowly. "I knew your mother. Years ago, before I met Siren. She worked in our home, helped my mother during a difficult time. She was kind to me when I was young and foolish and needed guidance. I owe her a debt." The room went silent. Madame Siren's face transformed into a mask of shock and fury. "You never mentioned this," she said. "It was before your time," the chairman replied. "But I don't forget kindness. If this is Maya's daughter, then she has my blessing." Junhyuk looked stunned. Avon felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. Madame Siren's voice dripped with poison. "So we're supposed to welcome her because her mother was a servant in our house?" "She was never a servant," Chairman Beck said firmly. "She was a friend. And you will treat her daughter with respect." "Really?" Avon said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Because your respect seems conditional on who I'm related to, not who I am. I don't need your blessing based on my mother's past. I need it based on the fact that I make your son happy." Madame Siren gasped. "How dare you?" "How dare I what? Speak the truth? Refuse to be grateful for scraps of approval? I don't need permission to exist in your world. Junhyuk chose me. That's all that matters." Mincio spoke up for the first time. "She's right. And honestly, mother, she's the first person Junhyuk's brought home who actually has a spine. I like her." "Mincio, stay out of this. She carries herself well," Mincio continued. "I think she'll fit just right in." The dinner continued awkwardly, tension thick enough to cut. When dessert was served, Junhyuk stood. Everyone looked at him. He walked around the table, past his mother's furious face, past his father's curious expression, past his sister's encouraging smile. He stopped beside Avon's chair, and he knelt. "Avon Sinclair," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "I'm doing this here because I want everyone to witness this moment. I want them to see that I choose you completely and irrevocably. Will you marry me?" The room erupted, not with joy but with shock. Mincio clapped her hands together, delighted. Chairman Beck watched with an unreadable expression. Madame Siren looked like she might faint. Before Avon could answer, the dining room doors burst open. Siha Kwan stormed in, face twisted with rage. "You can't do this. You can't marry her." "Siha," Madame Siren said. "I invited you, but this is not the time. I love you." Siha screamed at Junhyuk. "Everything I've done because I love you. And you're throwing it all away for this nobody." She lunged at Avon. But Avon stood, caught Siha's wrist mid-swing, and spoke with deadly calm. "Touch me, and I will have you arrested for assault. I have security footage from 2 previous attacks you orchestrated. I have witness statements. I have everything I need to destroy you legally. The only reason I haven't is because I don't waste time on people who don't matter." Siha crumpled. "You can't." "Enough." Chairman Beck's voice wasn't loud, but it silenced everyone instantly. He stood, walked to Siha, and looked down at her with disappointment. "You orchestrated attacks on this woman? You brought violence into my family's business." She took him from me." "He was never yours," the chairman said. "And you are no longer welcome in this house. Security, please escort Miss Kwan out." As Siha was led away, screaming and crying, Chairman Beck turned to his wife. "You invited her tonight. You knew about the attacks." "I know I didn't." "Don't lie to me, Siren. Not after 30 years of marriage." Junhyuk was still kneeling, still holding the ring, still waiting for Avon's answer. She looked at him, at this man who'd chosen her over empire, over family approval, over everything society said he should want. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her as the room descended into chaos around them. Later, driving home, they talked about everything that had happened. "I'm sorry," Junhyuk said. "I wanted the proposal to be perfect, and instead it turned into a circus." "It was perfect," Avon said, "because it was real. No pretending, no hiding. Just us. Just us, he repeated. I promise you, Avon, nobody will ever hurt you again. Nobody will make you feel small or unwelcome. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know how extraordinary you are. That's a big promise. I'm a man of big promises. He kissed her hand. Nobody can stop us now. Avon called her mother that night, told her everything. About the dinner, about the proposal, about Chairman Beck recognizing her name. I always wondered if he remembered, her mother said softly. He was a good young man. Troubled but good. I'm glad he found peace. He wants to meet you. Properly, I mean. At the wedding. I'd like that. Mother, Avon said. Did you ever think that you'd fall in love with someone like him? No. But I knew you'd fall in love with someone who deserves you. That's all I ever wanted. The following weeks brought investigations. Chairman Beck personally investigated his wife's involvement. The evidence was undeniable. Phone records, financial transactions, witness testimonies. She'd paid for both attacks, coordinated with Siha, and lied about it to her husband. But he was too strategic to let it become a public scandal. Instead, he handled it privately. There was a long, closed-door conversation in his study, one that left Madame Siren visibly shaken for weeks. She was removed from involvement in Junhyuk's personal life. Her opinions on family matters no longer held weight, and the chairman made it clear. One more misstep, and the consequences would be far worse. For a woman who'd ruled the household for decades, the shift in power was humbling enough. The confrontation was private, but its effects rippled through the family. Chairman Beck was disappointed, Junhyuk was furious, and Minseo refused to speak to her mother for days. But something unexpected happened. Madame Siren watched Avon during this time, watched how she refused to gloat, refused to demand punishment, refused to let the drama define her. Avon simply continued living her life, planning her wedding, loving Junhyuk. One evening, Madame Siren requested a private meeting with Avon. They met in a neutral space, a quiet tea house downtown. I owe you an apology, the older woman said without preamble. What I did was unforgivable. I let my pride and my expectations blind me to the truth. You're nothing like I assumed. You're stronger, kinder, better than I gave you credit for. Avon studied her. What changed your mind? You did. You could have destroyed me. You had evidence, witnesses, everything you needed to ruin me. But you didn't. You chose mercy over revenge. I chose peace over chaos, Avon corrected. There's a difference. I didn't spare you for your sake. I did it for Junhyuk's. Because tearing apart his family would hurt him, and I love him too much to cause him that pain. Madame Siren's eyes filled with tears. He's lucky to have you. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I accept your apology, Avon said. But I don't forget. Earn back my trust, and maybe we can build something better. The wedding was planned with both families involved. Minseo threw herself into helping, becoming Avon's unlikely confidant and friend. She helped choose flowers, vetted venues, and occasionally shared embarrassing stories about Junhyuk's childhood that made Avon laugh until she cried. He once tried to run away from home, Minseo said, giggling. Made it halfway down the driveway before he realized he didn't know how to operate the gate. How old was he? 15. That's actually adorable. Don't tell him I told you. He'll never forgive me. The wedding day arrived in a blur of silk and flowers and music. Avon's mother sat in the front row, pride shining in her eyes. Chairman Beck gave a speech about second chances and the power of choosing love over duty. Even Madame Siren smiled, though it looked slightly painful. When Junhyuk saw Avon walking down the aisle, his composure cracked. Tears gathered in his eyes. She looked like everything good he'd ever hoped for. Everything right with the world. You're stunning, he whispered when she reached him. You're not bad yourself. They said their vows. They exchanged rings. They kissed as everyone applauded. And when they walked back down the aisle together, husband and wife, Avon felt something she'd never quite experienced before. She felt like she'd come home. At the reception, Junhyuk pulled her onto the dance floor. How does it feel, Mrs. Beck? Strange, Avon admitted. But good. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. You are, he said. You always were. They danced as their families watched, as cameras flashed. As their future stretched out before them full of promise and possibility, Avon had fought for this moment, bled for it, refused to back down even when the world told her she didn't belong. And now here she was, untamed and unbroken, exactly as she'd always been, just with a partner who matched her fire. So what did you think? Would you have challenged back like Avon did? Or would you be cold as ice if you were talked down or humiliated? If you loved watching Avon refuse to back down, hit that like button. Comment below with your favorite scene. I want to know which moment had you cheering. Share this story with anyone who needs a reminder to stand their ground. And subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Bold characters, satisfying revenge, and love that conquers everything. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.